Welcome to another edition of Bedlam Buds. I am your resident Boomer Sooner. And this is my buddy Jeremy.
Oh, Pokes.
Go Pokes and go Browns. The Browns, boy, they got smacked by the 49ers. 26-8. That was not scoregami, by the way, interestingly enough.
Yeah, but unfortunately, as a longtime Brown fan, that's not unusual.
Right. So what else is new? So let's talk about not the OU game. I mean, we could do a whole video on the OU game. They're going to the playoff. But let's talk about the coaching carousel and not necessarily do a redux of Lane Kiffin, which we sort of did in another video. But let's take it back to Lincoln Riley. And all the way, back in the day, you and I had a discussion about kind of what my thought was, or what the average OU fans' thoughts were when Lincoln left. And we Sooners are sort of reliving that from afar watching Lane Kiffin. Because although I would say that, Jeremy, one thing that was different about the Lane Kiffin situation, he never denied talking to LSU. Lincoln Riley. Yeah.
And that's actually a huge difference.
Yeah. It's, don't lie to me. Don't bullshit me. We're just going to say,
right.
Don't bullshit me. You're bullshitting a bullshitter. And it's just, we didn't believe it from the second. And Lincoln Riley was objectively a liar about it. And that's the way it was. And that's probably why, that's not only the reason why OU fans were sort of butthurt about that, because I will tell you, it's been a long while back. I'm having to reach back in my memory banks. That's harder to do when you get older. But as I remember, it felt like he partially sabotaged the season, like it was always his intention to go. The fact that Lincoln Riley didn't walk out of Norman with the national title in one of those first couple of years, I felt like he half-assed it.
Okay, now, but the way I look at it as, impartial in that situation, to me it seems like OU fans have gone back and changed how they viewed that season, because you had two NFL quarterbacks on that roster and had some big wins, and it was right there. If OU wins Bedlam, OU might be in the the BCS or the playoff or whatever it was at that time. They were right there. To me, again, because LSU did that to Oklahoma State with Les Miles, right? He just disappeared overnight. Matter of fact, he apparently, again, if you believe the rumors, took a phone call at halftime of the bowl game from LSU to accept the job, as we were just getting run out of San Antonio by Ohio State. And he just flew to Baton Rouge. And the whole time that happened, I was like, good riddance. If he doesn't want to be here, hell with him. Get on down the road. I wasn't necessarily a huge Les Miles fan to begin with. And so when LSU stole our coach, I was like, okay, who's up next? Let's go. And it seems to me that OU fans with Lincoln Riley, and absolutely, on social media, people still call him Tebow, which stands for that out west, right? That B word out west. People still call him that after 4 or 5 years. And so I don't understand the animosity. I do understand the PTSD with Lane Kiffin and how that's gone down, but you raise a very good point. The main difference, and that's something I actually had not considered, the main difference was Riley lied about it. Flat out said, I'm going to be an Oklahoma Sooner, yada, yada, yada,
even more specifically, he said he wasn't talking to LSU. He was talking to LSU and USC. So the way he would probably rationalize that lie was by saying, I wasn't only talking to LSU. Were you talking to LSU? Are you talking to LSU? Are you going to be the coach at LSU? I'm not talking to LSU. I'm really talking to USC, and I had a cup of coffee with LSU. I think it was. Hey, by the way, I had to look. I was thinking 2018. Hell, he left in 2021. That's how long back I thought this was. So anyway, I had to look up. I was like, we lost to OSU? We did. 37-33.
Absolutely. I was there. Um, but I mean, that game had, to me, it had nothing to do with him leaving. He didn't lose Bedlam and then went, well, crap, if I can't beat Oklahoma State, I better jump ship. That had been in the works for a while. And you're right, his justification is a lie by omission. He said, I'm not talking to LSU. And so if he wasn't, then he was technically telling the truth, despite the fact that USC was already, handing him cash. Because wasn't it literally the next day, that Sunday after Bedlam, that he got on the plane?
So I will tell you, I worked at News 9 at the time, and I've always been friends with Dean. I'm a Dean defender. Dean's a very, very nice man, a lot smarter than what people give him credit for. Fantastic writer. And he got stood up by Lincoln Riley. He was the coach's show host, and with no notice or anything. And I remember being on several group texts because we were all in denial that Lincoln Riley would leave OU for LSU, because it had always been presumed that Lincoln Riley really didn't want the challenge of the SEC, that he was sort of a roadblock to Oklahoma going into the SEC, which, by the way, was never a football-only consideration. It was a money decision overall, period.
Always is.
Full stop.
Always follow the money.
Right. Always. In fact, I will tell you, I've been told by a number of people that in reality, there aren't that many concerns as to whether OU would regularly go 6-6. It's the money, it's the money, it's the money.
Yeah.
So, but Lincoln didn't want that because his system doesn't fit. Now, mind you, there's been talks about him maybe going to Florida and leaving USC, because what he found was he went to USC. Not only is the grass greener, it's tougher to win out there. You wouldn't think it were, but there's so many distractions. The fans aren't that into it. And I say the fans aren't that into it. The stadium was packed for USC, UCLA, but I've also been to a UCLA game. I know UCLA is not USC at the beginning of the year, and those students aren't in class until October. They're not there. But all that said, yeah, that Sunday, he just picked up and left, I don't know, and then somebody started making fun of his brisket. That's what I remember on Twitter, is like his brisket is dry. It's the ultimate offense in Oklahoma.
It was, and if you saw the picture, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. I mean, I'm about forgiveness when it comes to food errors, but that one might have crossed the line.
That was bad, yeah. I don't know. I think I was just more annoyed by the fact that he lied about it, that he was kind of TBOW about it, if I'm being honest. I mean, at least with Lane Kiffin, he never made any pretense that he was dating the prettier girl.
Right. See, and when Les Miles jumped ship to LSU, that same, literally took, if the rumors are true, took that phone call at halftime.
No kid.
Sometimes, I mean, the thing is, Oklahoma State was in denial because we were thinking, why would LSU hire this guy? Why would they want him? Well, it worked out. I mean, he won a national title down there for him before the wheels absolutely came off, which ironically is kind of happening with Riley while they are still winning and they're still, top 20 and they beat UCLA this weekend.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not that top 5 team that he could have been at Oklahoma. And again, I'm looking at this from the neutral standpoint, because once OU jumped to the SEC, for me, the rivalry de-escalated. Now, in sports we still play, like we're still in a conference in wrestling, so hell with OU wrestling, right? Because it's still a conference rival. But the football, I'm not opposed, right? And so again, that's why I kind of questioned that. Now, again, I hadn't considered the lying part. I hadn't considered that as why OU fans still might be, I try to politely say salty, but butthurt might be a word, because if you're still talking about that coach in that light that far down the road, 4 or 5 years after it happened, there's still some butthurt going on there. But everything within its context, I think OU ended up better off. I think that,
those weren't the only things going on, because one of the reasons why Mississippi fans are going to be butthurt for a long while over Lane Kiffin is that Lane already started to poach offensive staff and threatened to take players and staff with him to Baton Rouge if he didn't get a chance to coach the team. So he was kind of extorting the Mississippi AD, Keith Carter, I believe his name is. And in the case of Lincoln, soon after he left the USC, he took, there was an administrator. I forget whether it was, I'm, the name that came to mind was Trip Hall. I don't know that it was Trip Hall. I don't forget who it was, but it was somebody who was really, really valued within OU. Took that guy with him. We didn't mind that he took Alex Grinch. We didn't think Alex Grinch was any good when he was at OU. It was like,
I was going to ask. I was going to.
yeah, take out the trash by all means. But he started taking other players, Malachi Nelson, and all of these players that were going to come to OU, and it just reminds us that coaches are truly in it for themselves. There's one big exception I see to that right now, and that's the guy coaching the Sooners right now. Venables just feels like an army general, like a leader of men. And it's so inspiring despite all the complaints that I and other people have had over time. It's just, I don't know that he's in it for himself. I don't know that that's part of his DNA.
Well, ultimately, they all are.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they all are. But there are levels. There are levels. And OU fans wanted immediate success, and Venables had some bumps along the way. He had some bumps to get to this extreme high level where they are now. Now, imagine if they had just a slightly better offense. Okay? I mean, you're talking national title contenders already. So, again, I think that OU ended up with a better fit. I don't think that Lincoln Riley was ever a true fit in Norman for whatever reason. I think culturally we've seen that, and I think that Venables is. And so at the end of the day, OU ended up better off, just like Oklahoma State ended up better off with Mike Gundy, who led Oklahoma State to unprecedented, unparalleled levels of success. And so sometimes that next guy turns out to be the guy.
Right. And sometimes that next guy, in USC's case, ain't the guy, because Lincoln will probably still be there next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not lured to Penn State, even though I don't know if that's a good fit. Who knows? Honestly, if I were Lincoln Riley, I would go to Kentucky. Less pressure. By the way, historically speaking, Kentucky has been a great place for high octane offenses, because we talk about the Mike Leach coaching tree. It's not really the Mike Leach coaching tree. It's the Hal Mumme coaching tree. Hal Mumme was the guy. But remember, Bob Stoops is not the Bob Stoops coaching tree. It's not even the Bill Snyder coaching tree. Well, it is the Bill Snyder coaching tree. I was going to say Hayden Fry, but Stoops played for Hayden Fry. There are only a few certain coaching trees. So, I mean, it's hard to say what is a good fit or not, but there is always a lot of pressure when you go from one power school to another power school. And frankly, Lane is moving up the power chain, and Lincoln Riley might ought to move down the power chain and take the pressure off and just do his thing offensively.
Honestly, if I were him, I'd just stay put. I think that he could stay at USC for a while. I don't think there is nearly as much pressure there as other places. They want to win, but
I think they're ready for him to be gone. I think there's more pressure than what you think. I honestly, the boosters, man, I think they're done with him.
You think? I mean, even though they're top 20, and you just beat the rival.
USC has, UCLA has been hardly a rival. They're an in-city rival, but it's kind of like
still a game for them, though.
It is a game for them. It's Notre Dame. I mean, the thing is that you have to beat UCLA. If you lose to UCLA, it's a problem. If you win, well, that's what you're supposed to do. So with that said, I think the boosters are big money, and I think they are short on patience with him right now. And I think that's why there are rumors that he had been talking to Florida. There are rumors that he's been talking to Penn State. By the way, there were rumors I saw that Josh Heupel is talking to Penn State. Josh Heupel didn't exactly finish the year so hot with Tennessee. They got their tails kicked by Vanderbilt. Again, in Tennessee, that's a rivalry for Vanderbilt. Yay, Commodores. Tennessee, you can't be losing to Vanderbilt.
No, that's exactly right. I've already seen some of the fallout from that loss right there, and the fact that Tennessee did not finish the year well. Right. Now, I think Heupel is still secure for at least another year, but there is a point where, again, there is a level of success. Tennessee has won a national title. They've had Heisman Trophy winners, and so, fairly recently, the last 30 years. And so, there is pressure there that will build, but I think he's probably okay for this year. But the funniest thing about this whole coaching carousel, I meant to get this in earlier, is the fact that, these guys will prey on it and say, God told me, like Lane Kiffin said, God told him to go to LSU. It's funny how God always chooses the school with the biggest paycheck.
Well, it's because you can tithe more.
That's exactly right. You can tithe more. So I'm sure Lane's a big tither, and come on.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. I wish they would just be honest. Yeah, you can pray about it. And yeah, you might have the feeling that God's doing one thing or the other. Sure. But ultimately, just say, look, boys, I'm getting paid. And I think I can win here that I can't somewhere else. And I think more people would respect that.
Percent. And thank you for taking me back to not 2017 but 2021 and reliving the entire Lincoln Riley experience. For Bedlam Buds, this is Ryan Boomer Sooner, and for my buddy Jeremy,
Go Pokes.